Om Swastiastu. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my presentation. Here we'll talk about incorporating local culture in English teaching material for undergraduate students. But first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Nimade Ayu Sri Sudharmadi. I am from class A1 Denpasar in my fourth semester. So here's the table of content or the agenda that we will talk about today. The first one is introduction, and then continue to methodology, result discussion, and in the end, we will have conclusion of this material. So let's start with the introduction. So as we all know, teaching material play a crucial role in the teaching and learning process and can have a significant impact on the students' achievement and motivation. So in this presentation, I will be focusing on incorporating local culture in English teaching material for undergraduate students of the Hinduism Education Department of IHD and Denpasar. And this department focus some unique challenges such as need for teaching material that provide both English learning material and Hinduism material, because this is an Hinduism department. So in this presentation, I will outline the key point from the paragraph and further insight. So let's get started. The first one is teaching materials play a vital role in improving a student's achievement and motivation in learning process. And then the second one, good teaching material can facilitate students' learning and provide enjoyment and promote independent learning in students. And then the third one, student needs culture and background, particularly in English teaching, especially for non-native English speakers. And then the fourth one, local culture can be integrated into English teaching material. How is that? So I will explain in short. Teacher can help non-native English speaker student learn English in a way that is more engaging, more relevant to their own experience in cultural background, and this can make students feel more motivated and connected to their learning, as well as support their language development and cultural identity. And then the last one, we have the development of new teaching material is necessary to meet the unique challenge faced by English teacher in Hinduism Education Department, such as need for material that provide both English learning material and Hinduism material, and the resistance of some students in learning English. Now let's continue of the methodology. The development process uses a simplified version of the ADDIE development model, which includes 4 phases in this process. The first one, we have blueprint phase. So blueprint phase, during this phase, the weakness of the existing teaching material were identified and the new material was developed based on the needs and criticism of the student point of view. And then the second phase is draft writing phase. So in this phase, the initial draft of the teaching material was written, including the reading text, pictures, and activities. And then continue to the third phase is draft testing phase. So in this phase, the new teaching material was field tested with the student gather feedback on its effectiveness and relevance based on the student point of view. And finally, the last phase is the final production phase. So the final version of the teaching material was produced incorporating the feedback and suggestion from the students. So we can sum this. The study aimed to develop English teaching material that incorporate local culture to make them more engaging, that is, make them more relevant to the students' experience. And the effectiveness of the new teaching material was evaluated based on the student feedback, based on the student perspective, to make it more developing, to improve the material. Now, let's continue about the result of this study. I have 3 points in this result. The first one is the new English teaching material was developed based on the needs and criticism of the students, incorporating local culture and engaging material. And then the second one, the material was field tested with the students, and the majority of the students preferred it over the existing material. And then the last result is the students cited the culturally familiar materials and ample activities as reasons for their preference. Continue with discussion. I also make outline 3 key points. The first one is the results suggest that incorporating local culture and engaging materials can improve the effectiveness of English teaching materials especially for non-native English speaker students. And then the second one is the use of development model, such as the ADDIE model that I mentioned earlier, can help ensure that teaching materials are developed systematically and based on the needs of the student. And then the last one, virtual research could explore the effectiveness of incorporating local culture into English materials for other student population in different contexts. Now, here's some conclusion that I provide based on this study. I make it in a 5 key points. The first one is the incorporating of local culture in English teaching material has been found to be beneficial, especially for the students learning English. The second, the use of cultural material can reduce the foreign nuance of the material and decrease the stress level of the student due to the familiarity of the material. The third one, the result of study confirmed that the notion of the culturally familiar material can help students learn a foreign language, especially English. And then the fourth one, the study recommends that other researchers investigated the effectiveness of culturally familiar material compared to less culturally familiar material in teaching English in different levels of learning. And then the last one, the study provides evidence that incorporating local culture into English teaching material can be effective to help non-English speaker students learn a new language, especially foreign language as English. So, in conclusion, we have seen that incorporating local culture into English teaching material can have a significant impact on the learning experience especially for non-native English speaker students. So by using a development model and incorporating cultural familiar materials, we can make a learning process more engaging, more relevant, and more effective. So as someone who will become educator someday, we need a responsibility to create teaching material that meet the needs of our students, of our student perspective. So this is very important to always ask them. And incorporating local culture is an important step in that direction. So let's create more inclusive and culturally responsive learning environment by incorporating culture into our teaching materials. And as a closing, as Nelson Mandela said, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. But if you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart. I am Sri Sudharmadi. Thank you so much for listening this my presentation, and I'll see you in the next semester. Thank you so much. Om Santi 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 Om.